All right, we are on. Welcome back to the Unpopular Playground. We are on part 3 of the series on insurance for January. I'm Jenn Lin. This is Debbie, and we are going to talk about renter's insurance today.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on renter's insurance, Debbie?
Oh, I think it's a very important thing to have, and I don't think many people give it a second thought when they rent. And I don't know why, because it's important when you own a home, everybody gets homeowners insurance, and yet people are under the false impression that, oh, when I'm renting a house, the landlord's responsible for everything. Nah,
Wrong.
renter's important for a renter. So, this insurance covers your personal belongings and provides liability protection when you rent a house, an apartment, or a condo. It's important to have because your landlord's insurance policy only covers the building itself, but not your personal possessions. Now, a standard renter's insurance policy covers personal property. This covers a loss or damage of your belongings due to covered perils like fire, theft, vandalism, and some types of water damage. It includes items like furniture, clothing, and electronics. Some policies also cover your personal items when you're away from home, such as during a vacation. You may need to add a rider for high value items like expensive jewelry or artwork. It also covers personal liability. This helps pay for medical expenses and legal fees if someone is injured in your rental unit and you're found responsible. It can also cover damage you accidentally caused to someone else's property. Standard liability coverage often starts around $100,000. Yep. Additional living expenses, also known as loss of use. This coverage pays for a temporary place to live and other increased living costs, such as food, if your rental becomes uninhabitable due to a covered loss. Standard policies typically don't cover damage from floods or earthquakes. Need to purchase separate coverage for these kind of risks. Certain high value items. Your personal property coverage may have limits for items like furs, jewelry, and fine art. You can schedule these items for additional coverage. The average cost for that nationally between $15 and $20 a month. Factors that will affect your rate of coverage. Coverage amount, the value of your personal property and the level of liability coverage that you choose. Location, your zip code, including local crime and weather risks. All this factor into what you're going to pay. If you're in a high crime area, you're going to pay a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Deductible, a higher deductible, the more you pay out of pocket before coverage kicks in and can lower your rate. So sometimes it's a benefit. So that's something
The
that you have.
likelihood is a lot less than probably if you get in a car with your auto insurance. Um,
Right. You,
I would
you ought
imagine.
to want to have a low deductible. But this here, I mean, if you've got locks on your door, you got alarm system and stuff, probably you don't have to worry as much.
Probably.
And if you live in a good area, well,
Same
nowadays,
concept though, isn't it? With all the insurance, with the way that the deductibles go, it's
yes,
always the same. Higher deductible, the lower the
your
premium.
the rate, yeah, the lower your premium,
Yeah.
absolutely. And bundling, another factor affecting your rate. You can get a discount by purchasing renter's insurance from the same company as your car insurance. So that helps. When you bundle, they give you discounts. Inventory your belongings. List your belongings and their estimated value to determine personal property coverage amount you need. You cover the valuable items in your
Your
house.
laptop.
If possible, a higher deductible will lower your monthly payments, as we talked about before. When you're looking around your house, if you have an antique grandfather clock, yes, you put that in there. But if you have an old lamp, you're paying for this. So you cover things that are valuable. Renter's insurance cover all the things that have a high value in your house. Go around and make an inventory. What I do is I take pictures of my TVs, my laptops, and all that other stuff.
That
If something happens, I'll claim the things that are valuable. And also, when you buy stuff, like when I buy my furniture, when I buy anything that fireproof file box, and I put everything in there. I've got all the
seats.
yeah, all the receipts are in there. So I can prove that I bought this and this is what I paid for this. I got the pictures of it. So, these are smart things to do so that somebody can say, well, how do we know you bought that? Well, ta-da! Here's my receipt. Here's pictures. So
Yeah.
these are things that you can do to cover yourself. And then at the time when you're listing these things, then you determine which are the valuable things that you want to list on your insurance. So that's
Right.
pretty much what I've learned because I have been a renter. I've rented houses because I never knew where I wanted to live. My husband's job, we traveled. I swore until a certain time in my life I was not going to buy a house. I swore that once I found the place where I'm happy living, that's when I would settle down. So when I'm saying these things, it's from experience and I'm not feeding you false information.
Well, what about for like moving? That would be something that you would have to ask the carrier on that. I had pictures of everything, I had the receipts, so that if they were lost in transit, I was able to get reimbursed. I'm not sure how that works with renter's insurance, but it's definitely worth asking.
We have always moved where I personally packed everything in the house and never lost anything, never broken anything. We rented the U-Haul trucks and we drove them from New York to California. I mean, we did all
Well,
this ourselves.
but think about this. We move all of our stuff, but let's say there's pirates that come and steal the truck. Do you think renter's insurance would take care, or they break into it? Pick it up again once you get to the new place, or does it cover while you're in transit?
Thought about that. I mean, to me, it's like that's your personal stuff. So
Do you
go.
ask about it? Do you think
Um,
it's worth asking about it?
my thing is like
Would you quit your renter's policy before moving and then pick it up again when you get to the new place? I'm just trying to think for
I
the
would
young
have to ask.
people.
I don't know if my renter's policy would stop from the minute I left that house because that renter's policy is as long as I'm living in that place.
So it's
Transit.
covering the place, then in
Yeah.
transit. Okay. I just want to know what your thoughts were on it because of your travels with the
Yeah.
private insurance. I've only had travel with military insurance, and all my things were compensated if the movers messed up. So I had all of those things, the inventory, the pictures, the
But I do
receipts,
know
because it was covered.
moving companies do cover your stuff. I've had people that moved their stuff with pods where they came and they packed up their house and they had them in the pods. Once they got to where they were going, they moved the pods on the trucks to there. And if something was missing or something got broken, they put a claim in and they reimbursed them.
I'm 23 and I'm living in California and I get a job offer in Georgia, clear across the United States.
Yeah.
I have renter's insurance. So I would stop that policy. And then whoever's moving me, or if I decide to move myself, I would check with U-Haul to see if there's some sort of
Right.
insurance covering that. So either the U-Haul, the moving company, you would get that insurance to cover your
Yeah.
belongings. And then
Yeah.
we get to Georgia, you look up renter's insurance because that state would have different rules. I would say even from city to city, they probably differ. Just maybe some different things to consider with renter's insurance on that.
Anytime you leave one place of residence and go to another, you have to get a new policy because your policy is for that place of residence.
For the
So
address,
you
so it's by the
use,
address.
can't use one for 52 Rose Street and then expect it to carry over for 75 Vermont Street. It
Almost
got
like your homeowner's insurance. It
right,
covers just the
just
one
that.
spot, and you would have to get a different spot because
Yeah,
depending on now, well, you remember with the Palisades fires, nobody can get fire insurance here in California in a lot of areas now for
right.
their homes. So, yeah, it's a lot to think about. You can't get your things insured with certain things. So, before you make your purchases, I would imagine have that into consideration before you move into a place.
Especially in California, you have to check. Can I get earthquake insurance? Can I get fire insurance? Can I get flood insurance? Those are three things that you have to check before purchasing a home.
Or even before probably renting a place, because insurances, they're going to cover the building, but if there's a flood and I have furniture and it's only covering the building, it's not going to cover my personal things. If I move to this certain address and it's right in the middle of a flood zone, they're
Yeah.
probably not going to want to insure for flooding. Or same with a house. If I rent a room from a house that's on the San Andreas fault line, earthquake insurance for my
Nope.
belongings.
Nope.
So, yeah, you want to think about even where you rent and make sure that you can get these insurances before you sign those contracts.
Because we had to
Yeah.
do that. We lived in California. We had to ask about all of those: fire insurance, earthquake insurance. We didn't worry about the floods because we weren't in a flood area.
Right. That would be Mississippi, maybe in the middle, or Texas, or South Texas. If you're
Yeah.
over by the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America, if you're near water and you're
Yeah.
into flooding, you're going to want to check for flood insurance as well. Whatever
You,
natural
you
disasters
need
there are.
to, you're going to move someplace, you need to research and find out what are the hazards and will they cover you if any of these hazards come to fruition.
From Florida, you got hurricanes.
Well, I mean, look at the people in the tornado countries. Those people in mobile homes in the tornadoes, they definitely are not going to cover you for tornadoes. And the people in California that build their freaking home on stilts on the cliffs, they can't get coverage for that
Oh,
because,
yeah, all the
well, if there's a
mudslides
little
and all
earthquake
that.
or a shake, yeah, they're down the hill. I mean, these are things that they have to, think about.
And if you're going to rent a room or rent space, even in those things, yeah, you got to be able to get the insurance. Or if you're renting a house in those areas, you have to make sure that, wow, does the owner have fire insurance? What type of insurance coverage do they have, so that you can make sure to look into getting the type of coverage that you want? And if you can't
But
get it, I wouldn't
yeah,
sign the contract.
the owner is only responsible for ensuring the structure,
Not your
not
belongings.
so if his house goes down, he's responsible for his house. But your stuff and things like that, that's the stuff that you have to insure.
And if
Yeah,
you can't get insurance on it,
it's a very touchy situation. So
don't sign that
no,
contract.
the only thing I can say is before you do anything, when you're making a purchase or a decision like that, you make sure you research and you know the questions to ask and go with the real estate. Take a real
Well,
estate person and go in with them, and they know exactly the questions to ask and help you out because you're not going to know. A young person is not going to know what fault line and what this and that is. So you need to ask, have someone that
get a
is not.
professional, they'll help you. Some of the things that I would bring up too is if you have roommates, and some places that rent out, they'll rent out to multiple roommates and you won't know them personally.
Mhm.
I stayed in a place like that, and they had 6 bedroom house. It was just about 4 or 5 different people. You have to know, am I sharing a bathroom? Who am I sharing the bathroom with? What are their habits like? Because sometimes they can leave candles going, they can
Yeah,
not shut off their equipment, and you're in the room next door, and your stuff can get ruined because they left a candle on when they left, or
right.
they left stuff plugged in. They might not know the home safety rules, and then all your stuff goes up in flames because you have an idiot roommate.
But
So with the renter's insurance, that's why you want to have it, because of stupid people that you might be living with. And if you have renter's insurance, it's going to cover your property,
your
not
stuff, right?
theirs. And Debbie, I do have a couple of questions that I had found out about, some considerations
Huh.
specific to rental property that you do want to ask what the coverage is, what it doesn't cover, and most importantly, and I would say it goes across all insurances, how do I make the claims? You want to know how what the process is for making a claim when your
Mm-hmm.
property's damaged, what the replacement value, are they going to replace partial or are they going to replace the full cost of what you paid for it? And then Debbie, you already mentioned to inventory your belongings. You covered the high
Yeah.
value. Between the both
Yeah.
of us, I think we got it covered.
That's why I said before you purchase, make sure you shop around
Yep.
because
A lot of the insurances are similar, but some of them are just a little bit different. And on that note, that's what we're going to be talking about next. Some of
yes,
those specialty insurances that
right.
you need to think about that not a lot of people get, but you might be in this situation that you
These
might
are
need these types of
niche,
insurance.
the niche insurance.
Niche. The two that we talked about in great detail was auto and renters insurance. And then we even covered a few of the niche ones, but we'll probably touch on those again. So that way you have a good wrap up and idea about what you need to think about when you go get your insurance policies and to make sure that you have the coverage that you want
Yeah.
and that you're not being taken advantage of because they do like to take advantage of young people and your naivete. We're going to close this episode. Join us next week for the niche insurances that we're going to be discussing. Stay curious.
Stay
Debbie,
focused.
all right. We will see you next episode. Bye, guys.